What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smithy with another GSD Mode interview where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate agents, and just straight up top badasses out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, their families, as well as have a big impact on others while they exist. So to you guys, we got another rock star, amazing, special guest on the show. So our guest today, you guys, is a top realtor, top team leader in Atlanta. In 2017, she had the top sale out of her whole entire firm at $1,950,000, which is vastly supersedes my highest sell, so I'm a little jealous here, has been called the Jedi Master of Hashtags, which I'm excited to get into that. And also, you guys, uses video and technology very, very effectively to go out there and attract national and international buyers. So really stoked and honored to have Tori Easterling on the show. My friend.
Hello. How are you? And thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, no, doing awesome. I'm stoked to have you on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Right. Let's get to it.
Yeah. So, before we get into what you're doing next, I know you're doing a lot of amazing things. I mean, you're obviously you're growing your team, you're expanding, you guys are doing big things there. You're doing a lot of kind of innovative things, if you will, and leveraging social media and technology really well. But before we get into all of that, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them down this journey in the first place. If you rewind the clocks, what led you into entrepreneurship and ultimately into the real estate industry in the first place?
Awesome. Well, I will say what got me into entrepreneurship was when I was a teenager. My parents were into multi-level marketing before the communications business deregulated. So I used to have to go to these meetings with, multi-level marketing. You can have whatever you want in this world. It's a numbers game. Les Brown, Tony Robbins. So I got exposed to that when I was around 12. And real estate actually was my plan since I was maybe around that same age. I had an aunt who was a math teacher and a real estate agent on the side. And during the summer and winter months, she would have these big closings and these checks. And I was like, hey, I want to do that too. And so I went to college to be a high school math teacher because I was just going to follow what she did because I admired her. And I went ahead and was like, hey, I'm in college, but I can go get a real estate license while I'm studying to be a teacher. And of course, that was 2005, 2006. I got my license and got my got started in the business. I was like, yeah, about that classroom stuff. I'll do that later and do real estate now. And that was 2006. And then, of course, the market crashed. But I hadn't been licensed that long, so I didn't really get the gravity of the situation. So I just kept working, made it through that. And here I am. So I'm kind of working my dream job, if you will, in that I planned to do it from when I was a kid. And I got that entrepreneurial spirit put in me in middle school. And so working for someone else, even though I have done that, it's always been my goal to, have my own and have control of my own life.
Yep. No, I love it. It's so awesome to get that level of clarity at such a young age, because it's very, very rare. I don't know. And, I've interviewed a lot of realtors on here. I don't know if I've ever had anybody that had that clarity at that young of an age. That's pretty epic. So you get in the business at 2006 when the market's crashing and what's cool about that, and we got into the business around the same time, and it's like when you get into it, you're so new, you're kind of reinventing yourself every day anyway, so you don't really know what's going on. You don't have bad habits yet. You're not comfortable yet. And, but let's talk about that, right? Because we're in an industry where 90% of real estate agents fail in the first 3 years. And especially, that market was nasty, right? So what did you do out of the gate, especially you're jumping in, you're the firefighter, you're jumping in when everybody else is running the other direction and leaving the business, right? So what did that first year or a couple years look like? How did you go out there and create success initially and not become a statistic?
Well, what I did is pretty much what I do now. I made sure that I read a lot of books. I went to a lot of trainings, and honestly, being fully transparent, my first year it wasn't really that awesome. I didn't have it as great of a first year as you did. When I got in the business, I went and worked for my girlfriend's firm, which is awesome, and she still runs it. But I was new and I needed support, and I was shadowing. I didn't know what I was doing, so I quickly shifted to a company that had more training, a bigger company. And I went there, and when I walked in the door, I just asked the broker, who's number one? And I said, who's number one? And he told me her name. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to work with her. And he was like, well, she already has an assistant, and yeah, she's not hiring. I said, okay, well, that's great. I'm going to work for her. She's number one, so I'll figure it out. And in my first office, we had 2 floors, and downstairs was kind of like the common folks, and upstairs was, where the top producers were. And I shimmied my way up there somehow and found me a cubicle right outside of her office. And I camped out there, and it was just kind of like, well, let me know what you need. And back then she was the top agent in the area. She was working with all the celebrities and athletes, and she had all of the subdivisions and new construction. And I just decided, she's number one. I'm not going to, try to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to find out what she did and learn from her. And ultimately, I think after maybe about 6 months to a year, she brought me on her team. So early on in my career, I got exposure to luxury. I got exposure to, dealing with confidentiality agreements and, just dealing with high net worth individuals, which is what I focus on still today. But that's what I did in my first year. I just went and went after the top producers and tried to emulate their activities. So I got the habits of lead generation, following a schedule. That was something that she instilled in me, following the schedule. She used to make me call her clients every Monday morning. So that's something that I still carry in my business. She would say, if your clients are calling you, you're not doing your job. So I learned a lot of great things from her, still keep in touch with her to this day. Of course, when the market crashed, we split, we tried to hang on and whatnot, and then we split up. But yeah, that's where I got everything from. I just went straight to the top. I don't.
Yeah. Now, have you always been like that, like just driven, take the bull by the horns, like never take a no for an answer, like just like the broker, like you're especially when you're new, you think your broker's your boss. They're like, no, you have a chance. And you're like, I don't care what you say, I'm going for this. Have you always had that kind of inner drive?
I have, Joshua. Again, being fully transparent, where I came from, I just didn't grow up with a silver spoon, but I still knew like this can't be life, and there's an alternative to this way of living. So at a very young age, I started investigating and getting curious about what people outside of my community were doing. And I think in 4th grade, a teacher invited me to her place, and that was my first exposure to life outside of the hood or what have you. And I'm like, oh, people are living differently than I'm living. So I started getting curious, and I started getting my parents to take me to open houses as a kid. So it's always been, that's always been how I am. And then with the big sale that I had, I just woke up one day and said, hey, I want to go work in Buckhead, which is the most prestigious part of town here in Atlanta. And I literally just said, why not? Why can't I work in this building? And I declared it pretty much and went after it. So I have always been that way, and people think I'm nuts. My broker, even here at my company, he's just like, well, Tori, you gotta take these steps to get. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. I'm going there, and so I don't know what that is or how I ended up with that trait. Yeah. Doesn't always work out. Lots of failure, of course, which is a good thing for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, and then you talked about, okay, you got clarity that you wanted to work for this top producer, but you were like hanging there and just like going after this opportunity. And I don't know how exactly it went, like getting turned down or getting told no, but for a year before you got brought on, right? Like what kept you driving in it? Because a lot of people would be like, hey man, maybe most people like hang on for 2 weeks or a month and be like, right. Okay, screw this, I'm doing another opportunity. What was kind of happening at that point? Like how did you hang on for a year?
Well, during that year, I wasn't just kind of hanging. I was actually helping out. So I was working, doing my lead generation, prospecting, calling for sale by owners. I was working my business in that cubicle outside of her office. But if there was an opportunity, she had an assistant. If they needed, someone to go on site and fill in at the subdivision, I would go. If they needed, and I wasn't getting paid for these things. I just wanted the experience working with high net worth individuals and doing a lot of volume. So I was working my business, but if they needed me to do anything, I was there. So I was kind of like I always call it, have you seen The Devil Wears Prada? I was Emily number 2. So I was just kind of, put me on wherever, and I was just there, but I was still lead generating. I was still listing properties. I was still working on my own. So it wasn't like I was just kind of hanging out. And in retrospect, maybe I could have come in and just did it on my own, but I was just, I didn't, being that I came from where I came from, I had some limiting beliefs around me being able to do it myself. And I thought, hey, let me just go to someone who knows what they're doing so that I can learn how to, so that I can learn my way around.
Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. So then, you said, okay, so the market then fully crashes, REOs are hitting, short sales are hitting, and you kind of talked about that. You tried to hang on, but eventually it dissolved, and you went your separate ways. And if I remember reading correctly, I mean, it sounds like you still, have some REO accounts and still do some REO today. But how did you transition? Because a lot of people didn't read the writing on the wall and couldn't pivot and couldn't transition into that space. I mean, did you get in that? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, yeah, a lot of people couldn't pivot, and she was one of them. If you're doing all of this money, all of this volume in business, a lot of her clients lost a lot of money. Like, these people had put up a lot of their money, and then like she didn't know what to do. And all of, people who in the higher price points, they were no longer buying or selling. They couldn't sell. And so there was a receptionist in our office, and she said, do you do BPOs? And I'm like, BPOs, what's that? And she said, well, you go and you do these reports for these companies, these asset managers, and then they pay you to do these reports and these drive-by inspections. And she was talking about property preservation, and I was just like, what? And so I went to the internet and just started, again, getting curious and making inquiries with these companies. Like, what do I do? How do I sign up? So I had a list of about 150 BPO companies. And I don't know if you remember, but I just would go down the list and apply, and they make you fill out these huge packets and you never hear anything back. But yeah, that's how I learned about it. I didn't know it before, but this receptionist was just like, hey, you may want to look into this. And I did. And honestly, Joshua, that supported my business. I mean, that supported me for a few years. I was making several $1,000s a month just doing BPOs. And then, had an opportunity to list a few properties. Of course, they turn into listings after you do so much good work for the company. So that's how I got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you experienced this, but, pre-REO, I mean, I had, systems and some processes, but man, when you get into REO, it's a whole different world, right? And you really, especially if you're handling volume, you really got to get your systems dialed in. And, I mean, it changed my life, right? Like what I learned from REO, that experience, I mean, it's one of the hardest experiences because you could be a human punching bag at time for these, asset managers, and you just got to take it on the chin. But man, I mean, the systems, processes, and dialing in, each aspect of your business, for me personally, was just such a game changer and exposed me to a whole new way of thinking. Did you experience that as well, going through that experience?
I can't say that I did, because honestly, I didn't get a lot of listings. I got a couple, but I wasn't doing listing volumes. The bulk of what I was doing was BPOs, and you still have to have your systems in place. They want these orders in. They've got deadlines. So in that regard, I did get the systems in place. But the biggest impact to my business from doing that was that I became a market expert. I can literally price property in my sleep. I can drive down a street and it's just like, oh, that one's 525. That one's 5. I can, and I say that on my listing presentations now. I don't do BPOs. I still have the companies, and I try to keep my relationships open because what's coming. But when I go on my listing appointments, I tell them, hey, listen, I was a contractor for Wells Fargo for 3 years while the market was depressed. And I let them know what the value of the properties are. So what I'm telling you is fact. This is what they're looking at. These are the comps they're going to consider. They're going to send someone out here to take, so I let them know what's going on. And that's the biggest thing that I got from working the BPO REO side. I wasn't doing volume with listings.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, those that are maybe watching or listening to that are newer and didn't experience that, BPO is essentially, I mean, it's an appraisal report, right? That you're going through, and yeah, it forces you that market knowledge. I mean, you're forced to get it down really quickly, which is awesome. So, I know today, I mean, you're operating a team now. Kind of just walk us through. I mean, at what point did the team transition, and then kind of walk us through, what the team looks like today?
Got it. Well, here's Tori, thinking big. So I went to my coach, and I'm not doing any volume. I'm like, hey, I think I want to build a team. And my coach at this time, she was just like, you don't have enough going on to have a team. And I said, well, listen, I'm a mother. At the time I had 3 kids. I'm like, I'm a mother of 3. I can't be out showing buyers. Like, I just can't be driving around town. I don't have that kind of time. And so she just said, you can't have a team. You got to do it this way. And I said, okay. And I went my own way. And so for me, starting a team was more about just not letting buyers fall through the cracks, because I would just like not take a buyer. I would just be like, I can't take them out because I've got to go to tennis practice and basketball practice and, do all of these things. So I worked for Keller Williams, and we have our profit share tree model. And so I was thinking, I already have these agents who are under me or, in my tree or what have you. And why don't I bring them in, try to develop them? They can work with these buyers. This is money that I'm leaving on the table anyway. And so that's what it started. That's how it started for me with the team. I just didn't want my friends and family to not be serviced. And I knew that I was not equipped to do it myself. So I think our models go, you hire an assistant first. And I do recommend for any new agents, hire the assistant first. I did it wrong. I'm not wrong. I did it my way, and it doesn't really work that way. You need that assistant to get the systems and whatnot in place and to support the new staff. But I brought on the buyer's agents to handle the buyers. So that's how I got there. And then, of course, there were some breakdowns because I didn't have the admin. I didn't have the foundation set, and there were breakdowns. And now I'm back rebuilding the org chart, getting the assistant, getting the transaction coordinator, and most importantly, the buyer's agents, because that's what sucks up most of our time in this business, working with buyers and driving them around. And I find that new agents are okay with working with buyers. A lot of agents aren't as confident to go on listing appointments because they don't know the market yet. So that's what got me going in the team direction. So right now, I've got an org chart, and I'm just like an organizational chart where I'm just like, these spots need to be filled, because ultimately I'm trying to get like you to where I can kind of step back and I'm not having to go on all of the appointments and do everything on my own. And I think that that's really where it's at. A lot of agents are just like, I got to do everything myself. Even some of the top agents, we try to do everything ourselves, and that just doesn't work over time. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah. No, and I love that you brought up the assistant thing, and I mean, it's a mistake that we see so often, and what happens. And I get why, in theory, in our heads, it sounds good, but then you become the assistant, right? And then it just the breakdown is just insane. So, talk to us about, I know you were, kind of given the name the Jedi Master of Hashtags, right? So kind of, I mean, how did that come about? And I got to assume by that name that you're going out there and you're doing some pretty epic stuff, with hashtags, with social media, to go out there and grow your exposure, grow your brand, grow your business. So, kind of walk us through how it came about and what you're doing, with social media to continue to grow and expand.
Yeah. So I've been on social media since Facebook was for college students. I don't want to tell my age, but that's when I first got on social media. And well, no, actually it was MySpace, right? So, but I was on Facebook, and, people were just like, you're on social media too much. You're on social media too much. And I was like, yeah, no, actually I'm making money here. So I started, before hashtags were even a thing, I started just being active on Facebook. This is before Instagram, just being active, letting people know what I'm doing. I used to take pictures of my feet when I was showing properties. I would take my shoes off and just like, oh, another property. And I just got I got that people are fascinated by the most ridiculous things, like taking your shoes off during a showing. We love food pics and all of that. And so then when Twitter and Instagram came along with hashtags, it was just like, oh my gosh, I can use this to connect with my tribe or whoever's talking about the same thing that I'm talking about. So the Jedi Master of the hashtag came. I did another podcast interview with the Atlanta Real Estate Forum, and I think that I made contact with them through using hashtags. So I will just go for hours and just research hashtags and find out who's posting on this hashtag. So I have the 34 agents in my profit share tree. I look at the Atlanta Real Estate hashtag and I look at what are these people posting? What are they liking? How are they engaging with the hashtag? And so I study them. I switch them up maybe every 4 to 6 weeks. I try something out. If nobody's talking about it, I don't, I no longer look at it. So for example, now I'm working with investors. So, I'm looking at the hashtag, let's say driving for dollars. So I just figured out that's a way to reach my tribe or the people that I want to reach. So when I'm looking to list condos, I'm not looking at the hashtag Buckhead condos. I'm looking up things that a consumer might be looking at, which is, hashtag penthouse view, right? Hashtag penthouse view, but I just go into the mind of the consumer. I go into my mind when I'm looking up things, like red handbags. I'm into red handbags and red couches. I mean, you'd be surprised how many networks of people there are out there hashtagging certain things. And I just really spend a lot of time in that space, and I'm able to connect with people who have similar interests, which I think is part of the social media aspect that people miss. Some people think you can just show up on social media and start talking to people. And it doesn't really work that way. You have to have something in common, and hashtags allow you to do that.
Yeah, love it. So somebody that's maybe listening to this, right, that has never in their, whether life or business life, has went out there and utilized hashtags in an intentional manner. I mean, you gave us some examples there, but then, okay, like if you get the hashtag driving for dollars, you're going after investors. Then once number one, how do you discover these hashtags, and what's popular, what's trending, and knowing that hashtag meets the avatar that you're looking for. Then from there, once you identify it, right? Because I think it's awesome how you talked about, hey, when I'm showing a home, I'll do a picture of my feet, where most realtors might just do a picture of the house. Oh, showing it, people get sick of that. They don't want to see that, right? So then once you discover that, how do you bring in, you're bringing in real estate, but then you're bringing in personal to develop that human connection. And it just seems like you're doing such a brilliant job at it. What kind of tips and advice would you have for our listeners?
Well, first off, to answer the first part of the question, how do I know what hashtags to look for? I just think about me as a consumer. If I am, for example, I have an iPhone, so I look up the hashtag iPhoneography. I take pictures, we have the portrait mode now. So I'm like, oh, okay, I want to know who else is taking pictures of, who else is excited about portrait mode. So I may do hashtag portrait mode. Now I'm connected to an entire community of iPhone users who have portrait mode. So when I get there, if it's an active hashtag if you're on Instagram, it shows you how many people are talking about it. So if I go there and it's only 200 people talking about portrait mode, not really popping, right? But if I go there and there are 10,000 people talking about it, okay, now we have a tribe. If I go there and there are 1 million people talking about it, that's too big of an audience. So I kind of stay in the 10,000 to 30,000 range in terms of who's using the hashtag, because it's small enough for me to engage and not too big. So then once I'm there, I look at who's posting, who's liking, who's commenting. So I literally just go through the post and see who's liking, and then that connects me with other people who are interested. So then I'll follow them. I'll look at their page. I'll engage on their page. And ideally, it's not just about liking. I don't like. You have to engage. So commenting or, again, finding some common interest. We have iPhone mode. You may ask a question. How did you get this shot? Nice shot, what have you. That person comes to your page. They see you're into the same thing. And now we have a relationship. Once you have that relationship, then you can kind of take it offline and start an actual conversation. And for me, I go straight to the source. So if you got your phone number or your email address, I'm contacting you. Hey, hey, it's Tori, we're friends. We follow each other on Instagram. If they're local, I talk to them. If they're not local, I talk to them because I help people all over the country through my referral sources. So that's how I use the hashtag to actually make it turn into business. And then the second part of remind me, what was the second part of your question?
Yeah, and I apologize. Sometimes I just rattle them off because I'm like, I know I'm going to forget if I don't. Okay, so then you identify it, but then, okay, so and you talk to, how you initiate the human connection. And I love it, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not in the real estate business, we're in the human connection, human resource business, right? So, you're initiating that human connection and but then from there, like, what are you posting where it's not just the traditional real estate stuff that people are just going to get annoyed with, right? Like, how do you engage them? So you have this human connection, but also you're kind of subtly planting those seeds that, hey, I'm also a real estate agent.
Yeah, so social media 101. Don't try to sell people stuff. People don't want to be sold to on social media. I went to a Facebook class like maybe 10 years ago, and the guy said, you're at a cocktail party. So I look at it like I'm at a cocktail party. So I'm posting while I'm at work, but I'm not posting buy this house, work with me. Now that's sprinkled in there, but it's literally like 20% of what I post. Of course, if I get a new listing, I post that. If I have a sale, I post those, but more so it's just like, anything out of the ordinary that I'm seeing when I'm out. So I post a lot of pictures of me walking into the homes. People are interested in kind of like what's real. People don't want to be looking at your flyer. They don't care about the flyer. They want to know, like, they want to be in the action and feel like they're involved. So the pictures of my feet, it's just like, hey, when I walk into people, what I'm saying is when I walk into people's houses, I take my shoes off and I'm working. So they know that I'm working if they see my toes, right? Also, I had a client they wanted to know how big was the bathtub. So I got in the bathtub, like, okay, like people want that. They just don't want to be sold to. That's all it is. Or, if I've got to switch from my heels to my boots, I don't know what it is with me and my feet. People are into that. But, if I'm switching shoes or I got mud on my shoes, I'm showing that. Or something really funny, back during my REO days, I had went to go do an inspection on a property, and the windows, these places used to be trash, and the window was bursted out. And as I'm undoing the lockbox and putting the key, a black cat jumps out of the window. And this is in Georgia. So Atlanta is diverse, but you have some rural areas that are not so diverse. So I'm running down this rural street in Dallas, Georgia, which is like an hour outside of Atlanta, and I'm hightailing it down the street, just like, and I'm screaming and I'm running. I'm afraid of cats. And, it's just a vacant house with a bunch of trash. So I did a video back then. I did a video and a post about, what happened in this scenario, because everyone right now on social media, everybody's doing great. Everybody's a top realtor. Everybody's, a millionaire listing person. Everybody's high kicking. And people just want what's real. And I post what's real. Like, life is not great. This is not glamorous. It gets dirty. It gets nasty. That's the type of stuff that I post, and people respond to it. And if they respond to it, then I keep giving them more of what they respond to.
Yeah. No, I love it too. Cause the cool thing is too, is those that really do respond to it, right? I mean, you're attracting clients that are connected with you. So I got to imagine then, I mean, it makes the industry so much more fun, like you get to the point where it's like, man, I feel like I'm getting paid to just hang out with my friends and help them sell and buy real estate, and it becomes a different game there. So love it. So then, I know that you're also doing a lot of great things and effective things with video that you've incorporated in your business. So what are you doing with video and like what's really working for you there?
What's really working is using my biggest platform is Instagram. So most of what I do is on Instagram. That's with new people. And then my Facebook, since I've been there since college, that's like my family and my friends and people that I know. It's not closed or anything, but that's just how the chips have fallen. So with video, Instagram has Insta stories right now. I actually post more on my stories than I do on my actual feed. So, I may post a flyer on my feed, and keep in mind your news feed is what your clients are going to see when they come and start researching you before an appointment. So I make sure that my feed is very vanilla. I've got some pictures of my family, some real estate photos. It's very professional. I make sure that my grammar is correct. But then on the Instagram story with video, what people don't realize is that on video, people feel like they know you. They can hear you speak. So it's building that trust. So on my Instagram videos, like, on Monday, I was pulling up the bold. I'm in bold now, rah, rah. I'm pulling up the bold. And I'm like, yes, I'm Tori and I'm bold. So I just went live. I didn't have anything to say. I just went live and I was pumped. I had gone to the gym at 5:30, and everybody knows that I went, like my community, they know that I, work out at this gym and did the, some boot camp. So they're like, oh my gosh, boot camp must have been great this morning. I'm like, yeah, and people just feel like they know you. And so when I meet people in person, like they talk to me like we actually know each other. It's just like, hey, Tori, or, I say my name, I'm Tori Eastman. Oh my God, I follow you on Instagram. And people are like, they're engaged, and video gives people more than that little snapshot in time. And I think that it just builds trust and rapport. And again, I just keep it real. So on my story, you may see something that you may not see on my news feed, like a curse word may slip out, get shit done today, like on my story, that's where I am. So people are seeing that I'm human. If I don't like to put bad stuff out, so I don't go on there. Like some agents will go on and talk about, other agents or something that happened bad. I try not to do that. But if it's something that happened and it didn't work out, I share that experience. It's just like, oh my gosh, my appraisal just came in low. Sellers, this is what you need to do when your appraisal comes in low. Or, oh my gosh, wire fraud is going on. And it's not like, okay, I have a professional message for you. It's just like, hey guys, listen up. There are people out here hacking email accounts. When you're buying a house, make sure that you're not, buying or selling. Make sure that you're checking the wiring instructions with the attorney. Just kind of giving them things of value, but keeping it very, what's another word that I can use besides real? Just keeping it very personable, so it's not so salesy, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the general public is just, starving, if you will, for authenticity, because you said earlier, like everybody's pretending to be something that they're not. They're trying to be this baller, and they're friggin' broke, probably living in their mom's basement, right?
I'm a recruiter, so I'm like, this person and I only have maybe like 3,000 followers, maybe. But there are people that have like 40 and however many followers, and these people are just like, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm a recruiter. I know what everybody in Atlanta is making, and that's not important. But it's just not, people, I guess when they meet them, they learn that they're not really what they say they are on social media. And then they call me and they're like, hey, Tori, this happened and this person is not professional. I get, they'll come to me and tell me what's going on. So I try to let people in and get to know me. And if I do make a mistake, or if I do have some things that don't work out, I am the first person to say, hey guys, this is what happened. And I think that that's why people trust me more than somebody out there who's just, I'm a top millionaire real estate agent. Like, it's not realistic to do that. And I don't think that the public responds to that. And I don't think that that's going to sustain another shift. Like when the market shifts again, all of those people are going to have to go back to their jobs because it's not going to fly. And then right now it's pretty much easy to sell a house, right? I mean, anybody can sell. You put a listing on, it's going to sell. But when the market shifts, you're going to have someone that knows what they're doing. And I think that that's what I try to get through to my audience. I know what I'm doing. And I'm here to protect your money. I'm here to protect your home, and I just think that there's too much, I'm a top agent going on, and I try not to dabble in that space. Yeah, I give my props when I sell something nice, but it's not like, oh, I'm the top agent in the world. I don't put on that that's what I am.
Yeah, I love it. So then, I mean, to do what you're doing here with all of this, I mean, you've got to be very intentional with it, right? I mean, a lot of people, and I'm as, when I say this, like, I'm not trying to be hypocritical here because I'm as guilty as most, where, I'll go hardcore with posting and, like Instagram for a while. Like I went hardcore for a while, and then it was just like 6 months, and I was like, you got to be intentional, consistent with this. And what do you do to do that? I mean, are you blocking off like, hey, like every single day I've got to create X amount of content. I'm going to spend an hour a day just on this. Like you're treating it just like any other lead source. Like if I'm calling expireds or whatever, I mean, talk about to have success like you do with social media and these platforms, the intention and focus that it really takes.
It definitely takes focus and intention. Again, on the outside looking in, it looks like, hey, she's just having fun on social media and she's posting. Well, no, actually I'm posting X number of times a day. For me now, I used to do 3 times a day. Now I'm just post 1 time a day, 3 to 6 times on my Instagram story per day. It's very intentional. I also use software to plan out my posts in advance. So I'll sit down, I'm doing it tomorrow in my office. I sit down and I plan my content for the whole month. This is what I'm talking about. I have my stock images already saved. I have my program that I use to make my posts, which is Canva. And it's just like, hey, this is what we're talking about and you need to post. You can't leave your audience hanging. And I even have a social media planner that I bought from another influencer on social media. She's the 6-figure chick. She sells a planner where it's just like, what are we talking about this week? How many new followers do I want to get? She teaches you how to check your insights. There's a way when you have your business page on Instagram to check what's the best time to post. So I look at those things every day and say, okay, my audience is active between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. That's when I'm going to schedule my post. I put it into later. When 3 p.m. comes, later shoots me a message to go ahead and post my post. And I just click send. I have my hashtags already pre-made. So Instagram allows 30 hashtags. I have those already set in my phone. So I don't have to come up with hashtags every single time that I post. Most of us are too busy to sit around and do that. So I do mine and plan it out in advance. And then my story is just kind of like, my story is more organic. But yeah, it's very intentional and people think that, you're just on social media. Like, no, it's very intentional. And then I have what's called, I don't know if you've heard of the 15th protocol, right? So the 15th of the month comes, you're not at goal, you go out and do such and such to kind of catch yourself up. Well, I started recently just, my day protocol. If I'm supposed to talk to, 20 people today and I'm not there, my 15th protocol kicks in, I go live. Like it's that intentional, like go live and you need to stay on live until you meet, until you've contacted X number of people. After I go live, I go back and I watch the videos. I get the person's name that I connected with. Boom, I'm in the DM. Hey, it was great chatting with you. And people are grateful for that because again, you have all of these top agents, they're posting, but they're not engaging with their audience outside of their lives or outside of their comments. They think that it's cool to let people comment on your post and don't answer. You're a celebrity, so you can't answer their post. I answer my posts and I engage with my audience. And so on my page, it looks like you only have, I don't have 1 million followers, but in my DM, it's popping. DM is popping. Like people are just like, hey, I want to meet with you. I'm meeting with a girl next week that I met. She's coming to join my company. So it's very intentional. And with my coach, I sit down and we look, hey, 38% of my business came from social media. She holds me to doing this. So I'm telling her, oh yeah, I'm going to go live. She's like, how many times per day at what time? So every day I got on my calendar, go live at 9 p.m. if you haven't reached your contact goal. And that's on top of what I'm posting already.
Yeah.
So it's not a game.
Yeah. Well, what I love about it is, because a lot of people will sit there and, they talk about social media. I mean, most people just think it's a waste of time, right? They're like, this, right? But what you said 38%?
38%.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're making, I got to assume that's, well into the 6-figure range that you're making just off social media on an annual basis. I mean,
yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of my business. And I had a baby last year and I kind of fell off. And so when I got the year before that, it was 58%.
Wow. And
my broker is old school and he's like, Tori, you're on the internet. And I'm like, 58% of my business came from social media. So I can't I can't not go there. All my entire profit share tree. I have agents in New York. I have agents in Florida. I've got agents in Tennessee, Texas. So I've got agents all over the country who are affiliated with me and who I get paid, by Keller Williams, a portion of their profits. And that's 100% social media. And like this year alone, I mean, it's not like making, I'm not really big yet in profit share, but that's an extra $10,000 just off profit share from social media.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Well, and the cool thing too is, I mean, it's not free because it takes your time, but you're not like, I use social media in the reverse, right? Like I don't do what you do, and I'm not good. I need to be, right? There's no excuse for me not to do it, but I dump a lot of money into it. But I'm spending like 10 grand a month on Facebook ads, right? And you're crushing them without spending the money, right?
And if I were spending the money, I would be making a lot more. So that's something that I'm looking into for 2018. Like, you got to start paying. I mean, because I can't be on social media all day either. So I do block out that, that once a month where I'm doing the entire month of content. And then every day it's like, okay, you need to jump on there for 30 to 45 minutes to engage with your audience. So yeah, it's serious business. And, especially with video, if you're not there, you need to get there. And it's not for everybody. But if it works for you, I would say definitely stick with it. It's very low cost to get into it.
Yep. Well, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, free, right? So, I mean, it's, obviously you have a device and other things, but yeah, as you said, if anybody's intentional with it, they can make it happen. And then, like, what do you do when, because I'm sure there's days where you're like, dude, I do not, like, I'm just having one of these days where I don't want to be on freaking camera. I don't want to post. Like, how do you snap but it's like that 15th, like you talked about, that 15th protocol, and you have to create content. Like, what do you do to get yourself in the right mindset to go out there and create content when you don't feel like every fiber in your being doesn't want to go out there and create it?
Well, Joshua, for me, I had to get very clear because I said, I had a baby last year and I kind of fell off, right? And then it took me to realize, like, some people are literally relying on your post or your energy or whatever it is that you're giving your audience. A lot of people thrive on this stuff. And so for me, I just get the point that, like, you can't abandon your audience. You can't abandon your audience. And if I go missing for a while, I'll come back and I'll apologize, because again, in my DM, it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. Everybody is saying that life is great and I'm struggling. So thank you for sharing that you deal with that as well. And so for me, it's bigger than social media. It's just like, somebody out there needs you to post right now. So you have to show your face. You don't get the option. You're a leader. I'm a leader. So I just don't have the option of sitting down or falling off. I don't have that option at this point in my life. And then, in terms of just work in general, it's not just social media. It's just sometimes I get up and I just don't want to deal today. I don't want to adult today. I was talking to my team leader this morning. It's just like, what do I do? So I do a lot of inspirational, I do a lot of audiobooks. I do a lot of videos on YouTube, watching videos like yours. I make sure that I'm keeping what's going into my head affiliated and aligned with where I'm trying to go. So if I don't feel well, I get up, get my shower, turn on my audiobook. It doesn't matter what the audiobook is. It's just something to get me motivated. Because, we're not motivated every day, but you have to just get your mindset. It's all in the mind. Get your mindset right. And so what I've been doing I would say like the last 3 months is I just tell myself, take an action. So with social media or in just life or business, I don't feel like it. Okay, take one action that's going in the direction of where you're trying to go. You don't have to get up and do your full lead gen and dial into your dialer and all that. Just take one action that'll get you going in the direction that you're going. And normally after you take that first action, it's like, okay, I'm already doing something. So go ahead and do the next action and the next action. So that's what I do on those days that I just don't feel like it. And I have a lot of those days. And this year I want to live on the beach 2 months. So it's like, hey, if you want to live on the beach, and I'll be working, but I want to, like, I'm licensed in Florida as well. So it's like, I want to actually pack up, go to Florida, work there, still manage my business back here in Atlanta. But I don't get to do that if I don't show up. I don't get to do that if I don't post on social media. I don't get to do it. So now it's just like, you want to go to the beach or not, girl?
Yep. Love it. So then, All right. So, I mean, you're growing this continued successful real estate business that continues to go out there and expand. And, it also sounds like you're doing, recruiting for, with not just for your team, but also the office. You got a lot going on there. But also you're a mom and, you have a lot of these other things going on. And I get asked this question all the time, whether it's with, from my 99 Mastery Bootcamp clients or from the podcast of like, hey, Josh, how do I go out there and balance this, right? I want to be this great mom and be a great wife, but also go out there and create a great business. And, I'll try to give advice with that, but I'm like, dude, I was blessed in that I got into real estate before we had kids. I created, success before we had kids, where we started having kids. My wife stayed at home, and I was joking. I say, I don't like, it's weird. I just show up and there's magically food in the fridge in the pantry. I just show up and my clothes are magically in the, I can't relate because I can go out there and grind 18 hours. My wife takes care of the, I don't have those same responsibilities and duties and different things. And this is a question I think that so many, especially women entrepreneurs struggle with. I mean, I'm not going to say that guys don't either, but I think way more so women. So how do you go out there and be as driven and focused in creating a successful business, but also being very intentional with the family?
Yeah. So a few things. The first thing that I do is I include my children in the goal, in the plan, and I let them know what, kind of the what's in it for them. And so, and not just hey guys, mommy's going to be away, so you get to go on vacation, but we do things like vision boards together. So every year between October and December, we're all doing vision boards. And it's hey, if you want to go on this trip or if you want these things, this is what we have to do, and we all have to pitch in. So my kids range from 1 year old to 17. So that's how the range is. So it's everybody's got to pitch in. Thomas, you've got to cook. You've got to cook. You've got to do the dishes. I need you to be, to be responsible. Make sure that your grades are up. So they're a part of. It's not just me parenting them and telling them what to do. It's just you all have some say in your lives. This is your life too. And so we just have conversations. So it's just hey, this weekend, we're going to go out. Last weekend we went out and we do a schedule. So I'm very intentional about my schedule, and I put my family time on my schedule. So on YouTube, I have lots of videos about time blocking. My date nights, they're on the calendar. My family nights, they're on the calendar. My movie nights, my mom night, all of my family stuff goes on my calendar as well, because if it's not on the calendar, if it's not on the schedule, it's a whole law. If it's not on the schedule, it doesn't exist. So I make sure that they're not neglected. So that part is intentional as well. Another thing that I took on last year was I used to try to do, as a mom, we try to do everything ourselves. We just got to, because we have this idea of what a good mom does. A good mom does the cooking, the cleaning, the seeing after the kids, and all of this. And I decided to give that up last year. It's I can't do everything, nor do I want to do everything. So leveraging out things that somebody else can do, like housekeeping. Once every other week, husband, I'm going to have somebody come in and kind of tidy up and get things back in order. That helps me out a little bit. So I don't have to beat myself up about not folding the laundry. So I do the laundry and somebody else can fold it. And I know that some people think, well, I can't hire a maid. It's not really that expensive. It's not, I used to think it was expensive, but it's not really. It's not expensive at all. I would say look into it, and you don't have to do it every week or several times a week. It could literally be once a month, and you would be surprised at how much that frees you up. It frees me up as a mom to just know, what, a few times a month, I'm going to come home and the house is going to be spick and span, spotless clean, and I've spent $100. It's not a lot of money, $100, and I get to go keep working, versus if it's just me cleaning my house, that can take me a whole Saturday. Yeah. That's the whole day. Leverage it out. Babysitters, if I want to go on a date with my husband, have someone come in for a couple hours. Again, these are things that I used to think were expensive. You have websites like care.com. They're there. And then my husband, he works a corporate job, He works for a Fortune 500 company, and we just talk it out like, hey, I'll drop the kids off, you pick the kids up. So I think that the takeaway overall is just ask for help. Moms, it's okay to ask for help and leverage out some things to free up your time and just, again, be intentional about the schedule. That's how I balance it all. I don't work weekends, Joshua. People are just like, what? I really don't. I make my appointments. My clients, they go to their doctors during the week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. They go see their attorneys. You know, you have to pay extra to go see these professionals during off hours. So I try to book all of my appointments during the week, during the day. If it's a very special client, I'll go and I have a conversation with my family. Hey, family, I've got to go out to this appointment on Sunday afternoon, and it's usually not a problem. Those are one-off situations, but I don't work late evenings and I don't work weekends. And that's when buyers are out looking. But if you're working listings, you're not out. You know, somebody else is doing the open houses. Somebody else is showing the buyers. So I'm home with my family.
Yep.
And the goal is to get it down to 4 days a week.
Yep.
You know, so leverage. That's the answer. Get some help.
Now, when because, you know, you kind of talked about this, that, you know, a lot of moms feel like they have to do it all. And you know, even maybe those that are in a position to be able to leverage this stuff out. And I totally agree with you. This is something that I always train any entrepreneur on. You know, I'm like, delegate out the household activities even before you bring on a full-time admin in your own business, because it'll increase your capacity massively. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than bringing on a full-time W-2 employee and all of these things. But then there is still kind of sometimes that guilt that can be associated, because you feel guilty for letting up those tasks. You feel like you know, have to be, you know, the super mom. And, you know, did you struggle with that at all? And, you know, if so, how did you overcome it? Was it just like you just drew the line in the sand and said, screw it? Or was it a bit of a process for you?
Yeah. So I learned that a lot of this guilt and the feelings and emotions that come to not just moms, but to everybody, is happening in my head. Like, my husband hasn't said anything. My kids haven't said anything. It's all me in my head making myself bad and wrong. So I started having these conversations with my husband, like, hey, do you have a problem? So if I am out in the evening, my husband, before he met me, he's an early bird. So he goes to sleep early. I'm a night owl. So I was just like, I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad wife if I work late, if I stay at the office one night a week. And he's like, yeah, actually, if you stay late, that means I get to go to bed at 8. So I had been making myself feel guilty for not making it home when he doesn't want me to come home anyway, because he wants to go to sleep. Because if I'm at home, I'm keeping him up with all of my entrepreneurial stuff. And hey, I got this new idea and all my squirrels that I deal with. And he's just like, yeah, stay out so I can go to bed. So I think that a lot of the guilt, and I talked a little bit, you know, about this in my email to your team. It's just like a lot of what we're dealing with is internal. It's not even really there. And so just ask. I would say, if you're feeling guilty, speak to your spouse and talk to your kids. Hey, how do you feel about mommy being away? Like, my daughter, it's just like, hey, is it okay if I go do this thing Friday night? And she's on her phone. Like, my daughter's 14. She doesn't want to deal with me anyway. And she's like, Mom, go ahead, go do what you got to do. And so I think that we just kind of hold everything in, and we don't talk to our family, and we just kind of we're battling these things in our head. And it's just stressful. It's not healthy. It's not good for the body. And chances are it creates space in your household between you and your spouse and you and your kids, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad mom, and you come in the house tiptoeing late and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, when that may not be necessary. So just communication, just talk to your family and include them in what's going on, and you'll find that you have nothing to be guilty about, and that they, you know, your family supports you more than you know. And so that's been, you know, powerful for me. My husband's like, girl, like, don't come home. I also roller skate, and some nights it's like, I want to go roller skate. He's like, please go. Are you going skating tonight? Are you going skating tonight? He wants to watch what he wants to watch on TV, you know, because I watch all of this, you know, I go on Netflix and watch all of these cultural shows and going to Bangkok and all of the cooking shows. He doesn't want to watch that. So just ask questions.
Yep. Love it. Love it. So, Yeah, I know you're you're wired to be, not wired to be, but you are wired. Is just this really driven person, right? I mean, do you have a vision for where you want to take your real estate team?
Yeah. So my end game is pretty much for me to be 100% leveraged and for me to be out of the business. I'm looking for more admin help right now. And it's like, I'm really looking for somebody who's going to run my business. I'm looking for a boss. I'm looking for someone who's thinking about growth. I'm looking for someone who has big goals. And so ultimately that's what I want. I want the business to run itself. I've got a broker's license. I don't know if I'll ever go out on my own and open my own office, but I'm just looking to run me an empire, develop some other people, because I really like my goal in life. Now my new thing is I want to be an international speaker and trainer. So I want to be traveling the world, speaking and training about different things that are important to me, including real estate. And I want someone to run my business. So that's where the team is going, is just bringing up people who are like me and just giving them, being a clearing for them to create whatever kind of life and career that they want. And I want people to come to me and just say, hey, Tori, I want to make $1 million and I want to get them there. And, that's the game that I'm playing.
Yeah, love it. So knowing everything that you know now today, if the Tori today could go back to the Tori in 2006 when you first started this journey in this real estate industry, and give yourself 2 pieces of advice, right, that you feel would have just fast forwarded the trajectory of your success, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like, knowing what you know today?
Stop worrying about how much stuff costs, like training and coaches and whatever. I just avoided coaching and training for years. I just was like, no, my broker is making enough money off of me. I'm not paying extra money for training. I damn sure ain't paying for a coach, $1,000 a month for a coach. And when I finally did it, eight years into my career, that's when things took off. So it's just like, bite the bullet. These people are skilled at what they do. These people have proven success. Just don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just be coachable, pay, even if you have to pay, whatever, suck it up, figure it out, pay for the coaching, pay for the training, and follow whatever models it is that you decide you want to follow. I just resisted. I was like, no way. And I wasted so much time, so much money, and literally, I think 8 years of my life I wasted in this business. I wasn't making money up until, how many years has it been? 12, maybe 3-4 years ago. I wasn't making any money for real. And I was just, trying to keep my, worrying about commission splits and just, if you're working with a reputable broker, just trust that they know what they're doing. If they're number one in their market and if they're winning, then lean into them, and it may cost you some extra money to hire a coach with the company or whoever. Just pay and get it over with. That's my one. The other thing, that's it.
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret, is just not just resisting stuff because of how much it costs. Like, I wanted to work at a 100% broker just because, I'm getting 100%. 100% of zero is zero.
Yep.
So just go pay the fee, pay for the best, get the training, and then get out if you need to get out and go on your own. But you need that solid foundation. I can't even think of a second one. That's my biggest one. I just think the other one is just, do the actions every single day, the compound effect, basically. That would be my other one. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to do the activities every single day, and they do add up over time. Every single day, just do it whether you want to do it or not. It adds up over time, and before you know it, you'll wake up and you'll have something special.
Yeah, love it. Powerful stuff. Tori, where's just basically, what you were just talking about of I'm a huge believer. And like when people will sit there and say to me like, oh, you're this great, realtor, great marketer. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just a good pirate, right? That's all I am. I find out what people are doing. They're doing it better than me. I identify what they're doing. I steal. It's R&D, rip off and deploy, right? Like I'm just a really good pirate, right? So, I know for like me, like, hey, I know that I want to go out there and grow my social media and do this the right way. So then for me, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I'm just going to go follow Tori and then just see exactly what she's doing. I need to read the well, just see what you're doing and just go out there and do exactly what you're doing. Right. So, where's the best place for those that are watching, listen, if they want to check out what you're doing, get in touch with whatever that may be. And where's the best place, Tori, to get in touch with and be able to follow you at?
Instagram. Instagram is where I am. It's where I am most consistently. I'm Real Estate Tori. So on all of my social media platforms, I use the hashtag Real Estate Tori, hashtag Real Estate TORI. So it doesn't matter. I'm not active on Twitter, not as active on Facebook. Instagram is where I am. And again, when you go there, not a whole lot of followers, but not a whole lot. It's like 3,000, I think. But you go into the Instagram stories, and that's where I usually hang out. That's where I am. I do have a YouTube channel, so I recruit, train, and mentor new and experienced agents. So I have a YouTube channel. I'm Real Estate Tori there as well, or Tori Easterling, where I train agents on time blocking and mindset and things of that nature. Because I separated it. Because I was doing training videos for realtors on my social media, and I'm like, I'm attracting too many realtors. So I split my Real Estate Tori page up, and then I have another Instagram page, which is Agent Toolbox. And that's where agents who want tips on, what to do, that's where I meet all of my agents. And that page has maybe 300 followers on it. So they're separate. So like you'll go on some real estate agent pages and they're talking about, starting a career in real estate. And it's like, if I'm looking for buyers and sellers for my business, that's the wrong message for that audience. So I had to separate them.
Yep. 100%.
So that's where I am.
Yep, love it. And those that are watching, listen, we'll have links right below. I don't care where you're watching. Listen, we'll have links right below where you can just click on those and connect right away with Tori. I created this podcast because the real estate industry is changed both of our lives, right? And in my opinion, it's there's no better industry on this planet, right? There's no more opportunity and the connection with human beings and the stepping stones that this creates. It's just insane. But I wanted to create a place where, there's so much information out there and there's a lot of good information, but there's a hell of a lot of bad information. I want to create a space where we just interview the doers, right? This is no theory, just the doers, people in the trenches like you that are creating success on a daily level. And with that being said, those that are here watching, listening are here because they want to go out there and create their own amazing, epic life. Do you have any last, piece of words or advice that you'd like to leave them with so they can do exactly that?
Let's see. To create their own, I would just say that there are so many ways to make money in this business and to be successful in this business. You're going to go to a training, a conference, watch a podcast, a video, listen to a podcast, and you're going to hear something great. Just literally write down and create your life, not Tori's life, not Joshua's life, not any other body's life. Create your own life on paper. Start with who am I and go from there. Who am I? Include your family, your spiritual, your career, and then break it off into your career. What kind of realtor am I? Who am I to my community? What do I do? And then go from there. Like, don't try to be anybody else. Don't worry about the next new thing. Just stay where you are or try something new and just pick something and stick with it. Just pick something, stick with it based on what you want for your life, nobody else. Because if you want to go out and do for sale by owners expireds, pick it, stick with it. It'll work. If you want to build an empire on social media, pick it, work on it. It will work. It doesn't matter what you do. You can do Facebook, you can do Twitter, whatever it is, just stick with it. I just see agents all over the place trying to do Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and doing all of this stuff at the same time, and they end up not being good at anything. Or they go chasing down the wrong path, following Tori, and they don't know Tori screwed up. Tori's trying to find her way still, and then you go chasing Tori, and then you get there and you're like, oh, wait, no, that's not where I want to go. So, and I did that for several years of my career. I started off my business like that, like who's number one? And I went and I tried to be this person. And it's not bad to emulate top producers, but make sure it's what you want. And that's my last advice. Just make sure it's what you want and what you created.
Yep. Powerful stuff. Yep. Love it. Couldn't agree more. So those that are watching, listen, I know I end every podcast for this, but information without implementation truly is just the start of delusion. Information is the power. It's taking that information, taking action on it that creates the power inside your world so you can create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Tori shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys today. Take something that you learned, go out there and take immediate action on it. And again, right below will be all the links so you can connect with Tori, follow Tori, so make sure to take action on that. And Tori, I know you're extremely busy. I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me, Joshua.
Yep, 100%, my friend. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Listen, we'll see you next time.